I know, yeah. No, it was warm. Teresa, are we ready to call the meeting to order? Great. And let's do a roll call. Catherine McGill,
Yogi Zimmerman,
Judith Murphy,
Megan Richards, Marion Plunder, Teresa Coleman, Nona Chariello.
and then Nancy is online, but we have a
Nan-
quorum.
Nancy Frere.
Right. Okay, so now is time for oral communications, but is there anybody online that has something that they'd like to say? I don't see any hands.
Could you tell me who is online?
Yes, well, Nona, Nancy Frary, David Cardinal, and phone number ending in 7562. Okay, so if there are no oral communications from the online group, are there any from us? Any oral communications? I want to apologize. I thought I had the Mountain Lion talk on the agenda and it's not there. So
I looked at the agenda because I thought it should be, and I think it's perfectly reasonable to fit it in under one of the things that's already there because we'll be talking about things we're planning to do.
okay,
And so I think it's not a stretch to put it there.
good. Okay, great. So that's that. So the first order of business is elections. And I guess we need to solicit nominations? No.
Before we do that,
Oh,
we need to
minutes.
do item
Yeah.
3, please, approval of minutes for
Yes.
November 26th.
I had no corrections.
Just one typo, 6A1 should be tidy tips in paren, not tiny tips. That's how I wrote it, I'm sorry.
I didn't even see that.
Perfect as always.
Okay, so with one correction.
I move we approve the minutes as corrected.
Second. All in favor? Aye. I think that was unanimous. Okay, now we can move on to elections. And I think we are asking for nominations for the chair of the Conservation Committee. And I have said that I'm happy to do it again, but I think there may be some time constraints, numbers of consecutive sessions. So I wanted to open it up for anyone else to nominate somebody else to do it. Nona.
Well, I want to say, Catherine, you've done a brilliant job and we are incredibly grateful. But the rules are, according to the committee handbook, that an individual committee member is normally limited to 2 consecutive one-year terms as chair unless a successor cannot be found, in which case the mayor, blah, blah, blah. But so in keeping with the principles of the committee handbook, I thought I would nominate Marianne Plunder as chair.
Excellent.
And I will second that nomination.
Are there any other nominations? Great. So shall we have a vote? Then,
You
Uh,
can vote, or you could vote on the whole slate, but maybe.
We've always done it one at a time.
Okay.
Sorry, that's just what
Huh?
we've done.
Can you speak into the microphone, please? Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to appreciate what Kathleen has done as chairperson.
Thank you.
It was important, significant, and in a style that is sort of very amenable and flexible. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. Thank you. Okay. So how do we want to proceed? All in favor of Marianne as a chair?
Nomination in a second, so.
Yeah, so we
say
have,
all in-
yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, okay. Outstanding. Great. Thank you.
So Nancy being remote.
I don't think
So
she
she
can
can vote.
participate. She can, I mean, she can participate as and member of the audience.
Wanted to make sure I
Yeah,
captured
yeah,
that.
yeah. Cool. Okay, so now vice chair.
Should we let somebody do it who might be chair in a few years rather than me? So that there's a forward momentum to this. I mean, I'd be happy to do it, but
Well, you know, we were thinking of that.
Mhm.
I think is nobody who wants to be vice chair. So we were hoping that in a year, we could
Okay.
nominate maybe you.
all right, I'm
Okay.
happy to do it.
Okay.
I'll second that one.
Yes. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. And now for secretary, I nominate Nancy Ferry. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Outstanding. Great. Good. All right. So the next thing is to go through an Excel table of the some of the assigned subcommittees. And so I just wanted to make sure that the people were correct for this. So for Spring Down, so first we're going to do the town-owned open space oversight. So Spring Down, I have the chair as Murphy.
Can I interrupt this for just a sec?
Yeah.
Sorry. It seems to me this is good. I don't want to turn this into a big, long thing, but it seems to me this is an opportunity for us to be looking seriously at what we want to do this coming year.
Well, that's going to be
Yeah,
part of this
yeah,
discussion,
okay,
for
good.
sure, for
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
So yes, my name's been on that. I've been, totally in absentia, but I'm ready
Oh,
to step back up.
And Nona, you're okay with continuing on Spring Down?
Yes.
Okay, great. Town center is not really open space as we've discussed before, but so right now I have Megan as chair and then Nona and I as the other two members. Does anyone have any quibbles with that? Okay, we'll move on to, and then I had for the brochure, the town center brochure, that's the plant.
You know, we
Correct.
haven't really done anything with that for a while, although I did look at our website and there is a section where the plant list actually, no, the brochure, there's a link for the brochure, but it goes to the plant list. So we have another missing link.
That ought to go on the list of things,
Yeah,
for
But
the,
I
for
was
the
looking, when I
internet
saw
person.
this, I said,
Right.
I wonder what they have posted as the brochure now.
Well, it's
So
a
there-
beau- it,
There's an online one and then there's the printed one and they're different.
I mean, the printed one is kind of out of date in a lot of
Yeah.
places.
Actually, they're both kind of out of date, but I think it's a question whether or not we really want to invest in that.
Yes, I think that is a larger discussion.
I think whether we invest in the brochure depends on whether we invest in the town garden.
Correct.
Why do we have two different brochures? One online, one printed. Why are they different?
So the printed one is this folded brochure that doesn't really open very well online. And so the online one has the image together with the list for each of the areas of the garden. Same pictures, well, pretty much the same pictures, same information.
Should we move that down to the back burner list?
Yep. Okay, good.
And I'd like to suggest the next item on there, native plant garden meadow, that I think we abandoned that a number of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. We had done a serious looking at it and replanting and buying little plants and all of that. And once again, it just got trampled. So it seems to me it's just it should be just part of town center like the rest of the landscaping rather than I don't see us doing anything substantial there over the next couple of years.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
if we could put it
So we can
down
just take
under-
that off.
under back burner or just delete it. It's just a black hole for time and attention.
Yeah, good. Okay, Ford Field and Rosati Field, I have me as chair and Dieter as co-chair or person. I'm happy to keep doing that, that's fine. And then Frog Pond, I have Zimmerman and Murphy. Okay.
I'm okay.
Anybody else want to join that?
So I have for the biological survey, Nona.
You've been on there.
Yeah,
I'd like to be on Ford Field. I'm happy to give up something else, but
good. Why don't you take my place on Ford Field?
you want to take my place? Oh, you're already on town committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just be a member of your team.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Are we in Frog Pond or Ford Field? Because
We
I-
bumped up back up to Ford Field.
Yeah, I'll just be a member on your subcommittee. for that.
Okay, good.
For Ford.
Yes, yes, I think that's really important. I'm glad that you want to do that. Good. Okay, and Frog Pond, I have Zimmerman, Chiarello, and Murphy. And Triangle Park, Murphy and Shady Trail Parklet is unofficial, and Chiarello and Bev Whitman. Conservation Committee sponsored activities. So the broom pool I've been doing for the past number of years, I'd kind of like to pass that on to somebody new. But I did get it started. I have the request in to the town. So I can finish this year, but for next year,
Didn't
we'll find
Nancy
somebody
at
else.
the last meeting say that she'd be willing to step up and do some significant part of that?
Well, I know, I noted that it was for a Detrichia Day, so
Oh, okay.
I don't know if, we can, I'm sure she'll help on that. So, okay. So McGill, Richards, Murphy, and Waltz, Broom Pole. Okay. Detrichia Eradication Day is forming and Nancy is gonna work on that. The Wildfire Prep Fair is Chiarello and Richards. You know,
I
what?
think I'd like to, well, I don't know if it's going to happen again, but since I'm no longer the liaison to wildfire preparedness, maybe someone else should take that, like Mary Ann.
Okay. Okay, and then evening lecture, and I had rodenticide, but I think in light of people's interests, maybe the Lions would be a good one to do this year.
I was going to suggest that someone else take it over for me because I think other people have lots of ideas. So Catherine or Megan or whoever.
Okay, you want to do it? Good, good.
So, yeah, this might talk about, since it's not on the agenda in other places, is where we might actually talk about reading lecture a little bit.
Sure,
Or-
sure.
Or because it's on here, we can talk about it later when it's more appropriate. I don't know, whichever you want to do. But
I'd
it
kind of like
strikes-
to get through this
go through
list,
this,
just
okay,
be
and
done
then
with
we'll
this.
talk about it down
Yeah.
further, but let's not. yeah.
Yeah. I was just thinking, but there is thinking, no, you didn't have to do it, and then-
Yeah, and I can help with that too, Marianne, if you want. It just strikes me that, in previous years, we sit here and we come up with an idea and we think, oh, that would be wonderful. And then we work really hard to do something and then we're struggling to get anybody to come to it. And right now in the town, there's two hot issues where people are dying to learn about it. They want some education. They're saying, why doesn't somebody do this? So it's like, the time is ripe. We need to do this, both the mountain lions and potentially sort of balancing habitat and fire again, like we did in the past.
Actually, I would say our last three events were very well attended.
They were, but mostly it came from our efforts. Yeah. Rather than that they were banging on our door to hear about it. That's my main point.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll help, yeah.
Okay. Managing the web page, and this is through Elizabeth Martelli now. Have been doing that, but I haven't been doing a very good job of it. So I think it would be better if somebody else took that.
Yeah, I mean, since I'm already involved, I can.
Yeah,
do
okay.
more.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. And then the content and structure, I know. Marianne, you were really interested in the structure and the framework of our web page at one point. Excellent. Okay, good.
Maybe we can just consolidate all of that into one item,
Yeah,
one group.
good. Okay, now backyard habitat.
Somebody needs to take this over.
Yeah,
Somebody who's really motivated. I can help with the accuracy, but somebody needs to take it over who likes it and who will help it.
yeah, yeah.
Excuse me, we can't hear.
She said they can't hear. Can you hear anything or,
You just couldn't hear me, I think.
okay. Okay. So maybe we should take a break on the backyard habitat for a couple of years.
No, I don't want to take a break. Let's leave it open. Let's
Okay,
leave it
okay.
open.
We've opened.
But let's keep it the way it is.
Well, if it's open, it doesn't get
Fine, but-
done.
No.
Okay.
It's in the top
Well,
tier of
top tier.
priorities.
If we have an applicant, I'm always willing and have in the
Yes.
past to actually visit the property and
Yeah, the thing is, the visiting is the easy part. The difficult part is doing the work, the paperwork of getting the applicant.
And getting the applicant, yeah.
Getting the
trouble is that
applicant. I
people
mean,
aren't
I have
applying.
plenty of addresses, but somebody needs to have the time. And we don't have to solve this today.
No. The other idea that came up when we saw a property recently was that maybe when we go out on site visits for ASEC, some of these properties that are very natural, we should take along backyard habitat brochure and give it to the people where they obviously have a property that would be terrific for
That's a
this. And
great
in the
idea.
moment, we have personal contact. We can say, oh, and we can do the little education bit that we do and generate some interest that
You know,
way.
this is a brilliant idea. I was just thinking when we go and do our trees, and if I think back now, almost every single would have, this is good, this is good. Okay, we're going to get this done. Okay,
So do we have a good supply of those brochures?
yeah.
Marion, do we have a good supply of those brochures?
No, we are, I thought we had a stash of brochures. I don't know what happened to them. Nobody seems to have them, so maybe we used them up at the last event. So we're out of brochures. We have 3 brochures left.
I'll look in my garage. I have a box of mostly outdated stuff. I don't think I have them, but I will look.
Yeah, check. Otherwise, we need to print some because this is a good brochure. Obviously, we can't do it without the brochure.
Great. All right, I'm happy to keep doing the tips of the month and the what's blooming now. And kudos.
Is there somebody who would like to take over the kudos? If not, I'll keep it, but if somebody would like to take it over. You'll do it? Okay, great.
The group decides, and it's just a matter of doing it. I'll
Okay.
do that.
Okay. Committee liaisons. So ASCC, Murphy and McGill.
Actually, I would like,
It should
I
be
would,
you.
li- yeah.
Okay, good. Trails, Teresa? Bill?
I'm happy to keep doing that.
Okay. Open space, Nona? Sustainability, Murphy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Emergency preparedness?
Yeah.
Defensible space? Is,
So that's really a subcommittee, not a liaison.
yeah, okay, good.
There's, yeah.
Wildfire preparedness.
So,
Under-
sorry, who's on the subcommittee? The subcommittee.
So
You
defensible
deleted-
space, that was more for the document, right? Working together on the on
So
the
that worked.
ordinance.
It's
the
the
leader.
ordinance, the
So it's
guidelines,
done.
and the handout.
The defensible space is done.
So
We
it's
should just
done?
take it
So we
off.
take it off?
Actually, yeah, we're
We're
working.
done. We're still working.
Why don't
with
you call
Kim.
it defensible space fire department?
Okay.
Okay, and
Then
then,
why don't you, we should then have, maybe have a separate
We do.
category in this list that's for subcommittees.
oh, that's a good point.
I mean, all of these are subcommittees, I guess, actually, aren't they? When you look at it. No, I mean, not all of them, but most of them, but maybe it might be clearer if there was a,
Well,
a section called subcommittee.
yeah, I think
so-
this is a good idea
So
because,
the top one is kind of that, but,
Right.
So if we're under the committee liaisons, there is no defensible space committee, right?
right, right. So that
So
should,
are we saying at this point that we're kind of drawing a line after emergency preparedness?
no,
No?
we'll get a new, we'll get, well, yes, we get a new
So there's
heading.
only one thing that I'm looking at that seems to have an actual committee. It says, or 2 things that have a committee below emergency preparedness.
So
Maybe
I would
maybe it should
suggest,
say liaison instead of committee liaison.
all you need to do, may I take this? All we have to do is move defensible space below wildfire and then have in front, above defensible space, a new subheading, subcommittees, and then it's resolved.
No, because Hawthorns and Parks and Rec are
our committees.
Oh, well, then
those
you
are
move them up.
liaisons.
Okay.
That's
Those
what
two
I'm
can be
trying,
bumped
that's what I
up.
was trying to say, is it looks like we've got mix and match here, so
Yes.
let's tease out the ones that
Yeah.
shouldn't be.
So defensible space and wildfire, wildlife corridors,
Yeah, that
that's
should,
its own subcommittee, and there will be other subcommittees, obviously, in 2025, and they will go in there.
And as a matter of fact, we went, open space is listed with a committee liaison, but there's also now this joint subcommittee with open space that should be listed too, if we're under the subcommittee heading.
What is that committee called?
Joint subcommittee with open space.
And
right. That should be done on here.
So
Oh,
don't
us,
we
joint.
already have that under the the town-owned space, open space oversight category? Don't we already have that? maybe I'm reading this wrong.
Let's just add what Judy said, joint subcommittee with open space.
Yeah,
And who is the chair of that? No, okay.
Has Open Space had a chance to talk about that? At our last meeting, we officially created that subcommittee. Has Open Space had a chance to do that also? Have you met since we did that?
We have met, and I think the subcommittee was just going to continue. So Gary Nielsen and I.
Okay, good.
okay. And so the other two, wildfire preparedness and wildlife corridors,
needs
are
to ch-
subcommittees, that they go in a different section. Okay,
No, wildfire preparedness is not. That's a
The committee.
that's a committee and exchange Nona's name with my name.
okay.
That's a liaison then.
That's a liaison.
Right. So the only one that's not liaison is the corridors.
And the defensible space,
Okay. Okay. Good.
which we call defensible space / fire.
Fire department. Okay. Okay, and now just a review of some of the back burner things that have come up over the years, and we should be crossing a lot of this stuff off, I think. But
Wait just a second, because the Hawthorns, maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought that Nancy had taken an active role in that one.
she should be a second on that one.
Yeah.
Thank you. And for the dog park, I think it's me and Marianne.
Yeah, we'll keep it that way.
Okay, that's fine.
great.
Okay. So some of the back burner things we've talked about over the years is drainage and infiltration. I think, yeah, I'm sort of feeling like that's something that's not really in our,
I mean, I think
direct
the main
bailiwick.
reason we created this was just so that things would not disappear entirely. It's not that we were going to do anything about them at all, except to know they're there and maybe pull them off the
Yeah.
that
I-
burner list, in a year or 2 or 5.
I have to say, though, I quite actively work with public works on drainage. I just call them and tell them what I see when I'm out.
which
But
is
that doesn't
which
have
is
to be
different
here.
than this.
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's not a committee thing.
No,
Okay. Monarch butterfly support, we've had off and on over the last, I don't know, number of years, but it's not really gone anywhere, so let's drop that. Weed seedling information, I think we can keep that going.
yeah.
I really like that, the brochure that Judy sent out the other day. That was really nice, and it goes along well with the pictures that Paul put together, and
Can we, Megan, do you want to be a member of the weed
Yes,
seedling?
definitely.
Okay, so we'll add, for the weed seedling, instead of hypo, we'll add Megan.
Good. So you
And really,
mean,
that should move up then. This is a back burner list where there are things that we've sort of agreed.
yeah, so we
we're
can
not
put that
going to
up.
do anything about. So it should move
Subcommittee.
up somewhere.
Put it to a subcommittee.
Subcommittee,
Yeah.
right.
Good. Okay. Going native type tour, we've talked about this off and
That's
on,
on,
but
yeah,
I think
that's on
that's kind
hold
of
because
dead.
sustainability is on hold.
Native seed collection, Marianne, is that gonna,
That's
Yeah,
too hard to do.
it is really hard.
It's too hard.
No time soon.
Okay. Open space stewardship. Can't remember exactly what that was referring to. But
I don't either, but we've sort of taken care of that with our joint subcommittee.
good. Okay, so I'll
I
just
think it
cross
can
that
come
off too.
off the active list and.
And the other thing that I had on here, and I'm not sure, but I just want to say that there is an open question about working with the HOAs.
Well,
And it's,
Actually, we do work with Westridge quite a bit.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I think what this is on here because at one point, a couple years ago, we talked specifically about putting some earnest effort in that year into a meeting with the various HOAs and doing, some educational stuff with them and getting them on board with native plants. And it kind of fizzled, but I still think it's a great idea. And so I'd like to see it stay on the back burner list just if there's ever a year where we don't have a whole bunch of other stuff we're excited
Well,
about.
let's keep it back burner and put your name next to it.
Yeah, it almost doesn't matter whose name's on it if it's back burner, because I mean, because we're not doing anything.
Well,
Yeah,
might change.
but okay.
Okay. Great. Intermediate priority, town-owned property report. I think we should just take that off too.
Well, the same thing. I think it should stay on, but it's
Stay-
back
okay.
burner.
Okay, okay.
Having it be back burner means
Yeah.
nobody's gonna pay any attention to it this year. No time, no energy, no anything. But it's there because it's on our long aspirational list. It's, the town doesn't have the time or the money to support anything we might want to do this year or the next few years with that anyway, but there may come a time when it will, so.
Yeah.
Good. Alrighty. I think that's it for subcommittees and priorities. I think the priorities that arise out of this are the things that have become subcommittees. So the wildlife corridors, which was already a subcommittee, the defensible space and fire department. So those are being pulled out of like committee liaisons into real subcommittees, which means that they are our priority for our group. So there you go. Okay, all right. So we had a few site permits and Nancy finished the review of the Cal Water tank, and that's included Appendix B. There was a review of 389 West Ridge and 10 Redberry Ridge, and I don't know if there's any. So 389, you just
So,
turned that into
I
today,
just
yesterday?
turned that in yesterday or Sunday night, I guess. So, I mean, I'll put it in the next agenda packet so people
Yeah.
can read it if they want, but it seems premature to talk about it.
Good, okay. And the Redberry Ridge, 10 Redberry Ridge was just a comment to comments. So, I don't think there was anything significant.
There was the issue with the response to their comments related to the response to the trachea removal, which was a statement, well, all the neighboring properties have it, so we don't need to take it off. So we tried. But I'm just clarifying there was. Okay, but we will discuss it later in the agenda. Okay?
Cool, okay. Uh,
Catherine, I have a general question about site permits. I noticed in one of our reviews that we actually recommended removal of several Monterey pines. And I think this has come up on several reviews of what exactly whether our committee recommends removal of certain trees because of the species and potential fire hazard, or if we just don't object to removal if it's proposed.
my understanding, just from the way that I've seen the committee function, is that, and the fire, and our interactions with the fire department, is we're really encouraging getting rid of Monterey pine, all pines, cedar, deodar cedars. And it's not like we're not going to get in the way. We may not tell them to take it out, but we'll tell them that it would be great if they did.
So it's the Conservation Committee's opinion that pines are not desirable, fire aside, or is fire the main? I'm just trying to sort out kind of.
Fire's the
what-
main thing, but I think fire is the main thing. They're just so incredibly flammable.
Megan, do you have an issue?
Yeah, I'm
that
curious.
you're doing that?
I try to look at our recommendations from a conservation perspective, I think. And so when we start to blend into recommendations that are based on fire concerns, I feel like it's less of a conservation committee recommendation. I don't necessarily object to it.
Mhm.
So I guess if, my tendency when I'm preparing for reports is to say, make a note that something might be fire hazardous, or you know, say the Conservation Committee wouldn't object to the removal of these trees, but I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to saying that we would recommend removal of trees if they're healthy.
Are the Monterey pines the ones that are around town and aging, where they were all planted at a certain time and they're all getting older and reaching the end of their life now? In a way?
Actually-
Is that, there's a species, what species is that? Is that?
The Monterey pines are spreading. I mean.
They are
they're
invasive.
They are
and they-
That's why we are saying it. They're
So-
invasive. You can find them on the trail and they grow so fast. That's why, you know,
Yeah.
I understand your fire concern, but they are invasive.
I think it's important to not send mixed messages to people. And so ASCC, for example, now is saying no plants 0 to 5. And so we should just say that too. I mean, it's not a conservation issue, it's a fire issue, but if we don't all say the same thing, people won't get it.
But that's not even consistent with our own guidance. That's not what we put in our
I know.
recommendations to the fire people. We said you can put irrigated ground covers in the 0 to 5. And so now if we start saying, oh, nothing, then we need, I mean, I don't understand.
Let's put that on a future agenda. I think this is worth for an agenda item.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But I think the fire department is getting tight.
Yeah.
pushing even
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
And I respect that. I'm just saying, yeah. So, yeah, can we put that as an action item for
Yep.
another meeting?
I also think that Megan raises an interesting point, though. I think our specific mandate from the town is to approve or disapprove the trees on the request. But I think our value to the town, in addition to taking over that bureaucratic task, is our educational value. And so I think the fact that we go out and we talk with these people, what else is there, and make them aware of these other issues that are not central maybe to conservation, but it should be focused on the conservation stuff. But if they've applied for tree A and we see, as happened here, some other god awful tree that we think should come out, then I think it's totally appropriate for us to recommend. They don't have to do it, and we have no power to say you should.
Right.
But I think it's a value plus added from us.
That's the
to
way
do that.
I was looking at it too.
Okay,
but-
so we've got it listed here as a follow-up action item. Let's get back to the agenda and move forward with the
Yes.
discussion for tonight for the tree permits that are in the agenda package,
Yes. So,
please.
yes, so the tree permits for Coal Mine View, 25 Bear Gulch, I had a copy of, so I included it in the package, and then 25 Buckeye. Is there anything?
We
burning?
just had 37 Solana, but it's
Yeah,
not submitted yet.
137, yeah,
Yeah.
you just got that. Okay.
They're
So
done.
The Bear
Done.
Gulch one was an example of, they asked to remove one tree, but I saw a tree that was in even worse condition, and even more on its way out. So I said, we should remove that too.
Yeah, and we often see that too. And then Dieter says, you know, to the homeowner, this is a split tree and it will fall. Yeah, it's a real added value. And the homeowners are actually quite thankful that we do that.
Yes, yeah, they are.
One thing that would be really helpful, though, is that I don't know that the homeowner automatically receives our review. I know that they get a thumbs up or thumbs down, but
Actually-
we've had to contact the owners separately in order to make sure that they get the write-up and know why we said what we said.
I take that as an action item. I have been saying it in every email I send to Gabe, please forward to but I'll go to the town and I'll talk to Gabe and make sure. Yeah, because we want the homeowners to see it. We believe they see it, but we're not sure.
Incorporate that in the report, make it that a boilerplate last line.
I don't
We,
want,
we- no.
what do we want in I don't think,
you know, we request that this report be shared with the homeowner. That this full report be shared with the homeowner.
we could do that.
She's always said.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
No, but I'm saying sometimes someone else writes the report. If this is sort of an expectation that we will all do that it's at the bottom so it doesn't get forgotten. And you don't have to go to the guy each time.
We won't have to go to the guy each time. We'll,
Okay.
yeah. But we can add that sentence.
Okay. There was a 95 Saucel tree thing also. There's been a lot and I can't remember that one. And then I don't know how the Hawthorns became number E. That just happened all by itself.
Saucel, I can tell you, Saucel is a semi-abandoned property that has a lot of dead pine trees. And they were going to take out 2 of them, and I think they have about, I don't know, 10, 12 pine trees there. 8, yeah.
Some large number, and I think 3 of them are already dead. There are all Monterey pines, and several of them are in decline. It's pretty clear. They're all basically at limits of their life expectancy, which is about, for this area here, about 60 or 65 years. And there are some that are still green that I think should all come out. There are other dead plants. There are 2 Hollywood junipers that have never been pruned. They're huge. Should come right by the house, should come down. And overall, I wrote it in the report. My impression was that the whole property is basically has been neglected for many years.
Mhm.
There are many dead plants, smaller ones. Some of them are maybe not such a big fire hazard, but still, the whole property, maybe since nobody is there, one wouldn't expect maybe a fire to start there. But if there are any kind of flying embers from somewhere else, it's going to be an inferno.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and there was, for example, a swimming pool that was dark green, an absolute breeding ground for
For
mosquito.
yeah.
So when we see that, should we alert the fire marshal? Because they can actually do something about it. We can't, but maybe they should.
But I think that would be a great idea.
We can do that.
We can do that. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Well, actually, we put it in the report, so the town is aware of it. Yeah.
They probably won't do any, they probably won't do anything. about it.
Well, they are building a new house, so this house, I think, will be because they were talking about building envelope. So this will come back.
So are you recommending that they remove all of the pines and the junipers?
Yes, we did.
Someone talking?
I was just talking. I'm not sure.
We couldn't hear, sorry.
I'm sorry about that. Okay. So can we move on to old business and start with the broom pool? We've agreed that we'll do it on Sunday, March 2nd.
Are you going to talk about Hawthorne? Excuse me.
No, there's nothing to report on Hawthorns.
I think there is because the historical house got voted on. I mean,
Not on-
the lower
that's-
barn.
That's not related to the trails that,
It was on the wrong place in the agenda.
So the person in charge of Hawthorne's is not going to give an update?
It's not a.
so
This is-
it's not the historic house. We've not participated in any discussions on the historic structures.
And it's not part of tree removals. That Hawthorns is in the wrong place on the agenda.
Yes, it is in the wrong place on the agenda.
So is it going to come up later in your meeting? Because it's lower barn where they're going to be doing some things.
It's not.
And that isn't our. that
It's,
isn't
so
proposed.
it's listed twice. I do not,
Oh, I didn't see
No.
it the other place. Okay. I didn't see where else it's listed.
okay.
7F.
Yep.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Okay, so the last couple of years, we've not had a banner because it got lost. And so Megan has graciously created a banner for us that we can get printed.
We were told we need to find a way to get it printed ourselves for less than $100, and it needs to happen in the next month. So
Okay,
that's our next assignment.
okay,
But
we
we
can
have
do
a
that.
design and
All right.
And
We
so
should have money for that in the
Megan-
budget, right?
Megan, for what it's worth, their Trails Committee often does banners, and so they have a lot of experience in where and how to do banners and how much they cost. And I'm happy to set that up so that you will be able to contact the individual who does that, and she can get guidance.
I want to add one thing. In the past, when we put a banner on down at the end of Westridge, we needed to ask the town and get on the schedule. Is this still the case or? Okay,
Well, I thought we only
We're only
had
ordering
one, we were
one.
only doing one banner. Are we doing more than one banner?
well, where do we put it?
the town centers.
You need to talk to the town about it. That's what I'm saying. You know that.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
communicating with the town, but we're in charge of getting the banner ourselves.
Okay, so Megan will connect you to Trails on that. And then we need leads for setup and cleanup on Sunday. Who can come?
So I'll help, I'll do setup,
Okay, great.
and I'd appreciate somebody else to help me, just with some of that. And I would actually really like to request from the other people in the committee, basically, this is something that we all do. And usually when we come, various of us take on a group, we become the sort of leader of that little pack. And I have a strong request, the thing that makes it really hard and messy every year is everybody stays right up on those steps, and then there's no way to sort of separate out who's going with who. So if you could please, we'll work on the assignments before then. That's not my job, but I'll get them and I'll say, okay, Dieter, you're going to Shady Trail. And then if you would go 10 feet that way.
Right.
And I'll have a list, and as people come up, I'll send them to you or I'll send them to you. But you can't all be standing next to me, or it just doesn't work. People just end up all milling around, and then people start taking off and everybody's saying to me, well, where do I go? Where do I
Right.
go? And it's like.
Yeah.
It's very
Challenge every
simple.
year.
You just have to step away a little bit.
I have a question. There is a huge amount of broom currently in town. Are we having any plans to recruit Priory students?
We always send out requests to the scout troops. I think it would be good to send something.
So
'Cause they
who's
go-
in,
w-
are
and
you,
we
is that
do-
what
we
you've
have
been
done-
doing?
No, we
Are
have
you?
done for high schools because we can give community service hours. So I know that I've signed community service hours for Woodside High kids.
But
who
I think
help.
the question is who this year, who's in charge of that? You were saying you started stuff. Who's in charge of this outreach? Because the outreach is an important piece of it.
The outreach is very important. And I can do that.
The thing is, we basically would have to do this in the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
Otherwise, we won't get on the calendar of the
I
kids.
think a couple of years ago, I passed on to you, I had sort of made an outline of all the things that needed doing and some contact people, the scouts and the.
Yeah,
lady
those are all,
outside and
the-
all of that's
yeah.
all outdated now. maybe,
Yeah.
But at least it's an outline of what needs doing, and so that stuff doesn't slip off the list. The other thing that I'd really like to recommend is that we have stuff for Broompool scattered all around. It's like, who has the banner? Nobody knows. Who's got the pennies? We
I do.
borrowed them from the- So that they're there. And that for some of these things, and this is one of them, we have one person who keeps all the stuff for that event. Somebody has all the stuff for the picnic table, and that banner and that kind of thing, so that we're not always scrambling to remember where stuff is. Who's got the jars? Who's got the, yeah. So
We can try.
We
I-
can start with Broompool.
Yeah, we can try.
I think I have gloves.
So I have the gloves and the pennies.
Oh, maybe I passed them in.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
I'll
did.
look and see if there's a fragment of stuff left in my garage.
I have a question for Rebecca. We have now a lot of stuff for all these events. Is there any chance to get some space somewhere here? We'll think about it.
Well, the reason we lost the banner was because the banner used to get stored in the Public Works shed, and then suddenly it wasn't there. Nobody could find it. It might still be there. We don't know. Yeah,
Because what they took it down, is that the thing?
I don't know. I'm just-
Probably.
It's one of the things that leads me to say.
I
we
mean, the
should keep
banner
care
doesn't
of
take much space, and I know I had it at my house for a long
The
time.
matter of staying organized.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking how much stuff I have,
Mhm.
and I don't think I can store anymore. And that's what, but we have, Catherine has stuff, and Nona has stuff, and you have stuff. And I'm not so sure a decentralized storage stuff is the best solution.
That's my
That's-
point.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah,
So we'll think about it in the future.
good. Okay, we'll, yeah. All right, and who is willing to stick around for cleanup?
Both.
I am
Yeah,
always
so-
racing,
It usually just, it cleans up itself pretty much, so.
Gathering up the stuff, gathering
Yeah.
the gloves, gathering the pennies.
Right. Okay, now on to oversight of town-owned properties.
Catherine, before we move on from
Yeah.
Boonpole, do we have town-specific areas already identified that we have looked at to determine that's where we want to
No,
be
we
I have a
doing
list.
that?
I was going to
Mary Ann
give you
gave
a
us
list.
one.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's-
because
that's
it's,
another thing.
because it's the end of January right now, and if this is going to be March 2nd, we need to be thinking, because we can't do what Judy wants us to do and say, okay, we're going to this area and that area if we haven't identified those areas.
Yeah,
those
I know.
public
I-
areas.
yeah.
Okay,
It's,
So-
that's always really anxiety producing for me, is to make sure that we
Yeah.
know the sites that ahead of time.
Nona and
Oh,
Nona and I have talked about that, and she has some suggestions. I have some suggestions. You can get them by the weekend.
So the two of
Okay.
you are in charge of
Yeah.
that. Okay, so that
So-
when you arrive, or the day before.
No, no, no. I am going to send by the weekend to Catherine the address, the locations. Because I'm never here. I always race.
No, I understand. You'll get them.
I'll
so
get
that
them
if
by
I'm
this
helping with
weekend to
setup,
Catherine.
Okay.
Yeah.
get them to me by the day before.
Well, I can give them to you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no,
I'll give
no,
them to you.
absolutely.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to just note that up on Wayside, there are some town-owned properties that are totally infested with broom. And the Herb Dengler has some in it. And since those are town-owned properties, so Wayside, we can't do anything on the Woodside Highlands because those are all private roads. So we can't do any of the broom on there. But it occurred to me that those town-owned lots and the trail into Dengler, which are pretty heavily infested, that would be something that we could do.
I think what would be best, when you have the list, prioritize it.
Mhm.
Because let's say we have X people and there is stuff at the school and stuff at streets that are evacuation streets. We would certainly prioritize those up there so once you have the list, you
Mhm.
can
You
prioritize.
guys, knowing all the things you've
Yeah.
chosen, you should prioritize because you know more
Okay,
about it.
I can
than him.
prioritize.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can tweak it if you care to. But one of the things that I think on the outreach
moving on.
list is that the Wayside, for example, there've been times when sort
I'll
of
do it with
they
Nona.
did their road as well, while we were doing Broompool, they did Broompool on their road because it's their road. And so in the
So
spirit
say
of
that
sort of-
again, I'm sorry.
on the same day we do Broompool, sometimes we have encouraged, as part of the outreach thing, where we're going to do it and encouraging the students to come get this. And
Yeah.
Wayside's been contacted and Wayside has participated by doing their own
Mhm.
street.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll do an email for outreach, or would you like to do it?
Oh, you and I can work
Okay.
together on it.
Good, okay. Okay. Oversight of town-owned properties, are there updates for Springdown? I know there was a seating that was supposed to be on December 8th.
We did that. We
Uh-huh.
did that. A few of us were there and 2 residents were there and it was a nice day and we got some seeds in the ground. There wasn't a big, there wasn't a big response as we had hoped,
Right.
but we did a little something and the timing was good because it rained shortly thereafter. We'll see. I mean, a lot of the payoff depends on, whether the stuff gets mowed. in the way
Right.
that they will survive, right?
All right, Frog Pond, I think I had a phone call with Duff Sondheim, today. And, I know he is really, really, concerned about the lighting.
Yep.
And also the security fences.
Yep.
That they're proposing, and, they claim they're exempt.
They are.
I mean, they are exempt.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean they can't try, I mean, just,
Yeah, I mean, on the Frog Pond itself, I have to call the meeting with Nona and Rudy to see like where we took the notes 2 years ago when the construction was finished, where that looks like, how it looks like right now and where it stands. And back then we had a brief discussion on the security fencing issue and it looks like now it advanced in between. I think on the lighting, or the lights, they made concessions towards the Frog Pond because those lights are not on at night. And they were, as they told us, on a manual emergency switch, but the security lights to all the other directions are, I think, longer on or stronger than expected.
right,
So,
that's what he
yeah,
said.
so I think the frogs are somewhat okay, but overall being darker is better. So I think when we go, and I don't think the fence would impact the pond that much. We might even be happy with it depending on how it looks, because then nobody can run from the school
Mhm.
into the pond directly. So, but I haven't seen any drawings on how they
Yeah.
plan to do the security fence.
Yeah. So,
If I
And-
could add one thing about that, that is a place where Teresa and I found it trickier this summer, is the fence.
Yeah,
that-
there are some, and there were some other sizzles came up, so it's, yeah. So a little cleanup to do there, but otherwise I think it still looks good. The problem, we need a little bit more water, but the overall meadow looks pretty good.
Rebecca, would you know if the school is exempt from lighting?
They are. It's
We
the
do
school
know.
property.
We're
Yeah,
sure.
we
Yeah,
know
they
that.
are.
Yeah.
Okay.
For all, even like building codes and all that, they have a separate set of
Everything.
rules,
They're
yeah.
exempt from everything.
Okay. Thank you.
So Yogi, are we going to have a subcommittee meeting maybe after
Yeah, I have
Broomfall?
to send out an email
Yeah.
to the 2 of us or 3 of us, and then we will walk around that. Yeah.
okay. Ford Field and open space? Is that-
Excuse me. I'm just,
Oh, Christy, yeah, hi.
I'm just wondering what you're talking about. Maybe you have report and how does the public know what's being proposed for the school?
I don't know.
Would
Um,
it be attached to this agenda or where would we see what
I'm-
you're talking about?
I am reporting a conversation that I had, where there was some concern raised about the amount of lighting. That's all that
Oh, the
this,
existing lighting, they're not proposing more.
The existing one.
Okay.
yeah, I don't think anybody's proposing more, but I don't really know.
But they're not going off at the times they should be going off. Is that what you're saying?
We don't know the full details. I mean, I haven't been briefed, and I think you neither. So we
Yeah.
only know that there's an issue that's currently discussed with the school. I think it's the town, the HOA, and the school have a discussion.
Correct. And the other issue, was we had talked about signage, that might be helpful for designating, Frog Pond Park and to just, to make it
Yep.
known.
That's what I will bring up as a topic when we meet with the subcommittee, is that personally, I'm very much in favor in creating some signage on both sides of it. To educate people, but also to guide people. We will have more visitors, particularly when Hearthstone comes online, so I think we should be proactive in that. But we'll come up in the subcommittee. Yeah.
Okay. Um,
I have a question on Ford Field.
okay.
Dieter, I noticed that one of the very old oaks has sort of dropped to the ground 2 limbs. Should something be done with that, or should we just leave it the way it is?
If it's in the way of the people using the trail,
No, it's
Ah.
back.
then we
Leave
will
it,
just
okay.
leave it.
Okay.
I have some updates on Ford.
Excellent. Okay.
So last summer, I did a presentation on the conservation value
Yep.
of Ford Field, Ford Park. And I'd like to keep following up on that if that's okay now that I'm officially part of the subcommittee on that. And I took one step the last couple of weeks to check out the wood rat nests there. And if I can have a minute, I'd just like to show you some slides. I can
Okay.
share. Can I share?
Mm.
Permission to share here. Okay, and let's see if I can. See. Okay, so I walked from the parking lot behind the baseball field and then along Alpine Trail to the end of Dorothy Ford Park. And I just want to walk you through all of the wood rat nests I saw. Can you see my screen? Is it-
Nope. It says Nona has
It says
started screen sharing.
Does it say?
Double click to open full mode.
It is, it should be. All right, let me stop share and try again.
Screen mode.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
There we go.
Okay. Is that better?
It shows on my screen that I'm sharing, so let me try one last time. So am I permitted to share?
Oh, God.
Sometimes you have to just do an alternate host.
Um,
Well, I can just,
For
It-
co-host,
It would be nice to see it.
there are 2 points.
It's
I'd
okay.
like to- Should I try again?
It's not letting me.
Okay, so if I do share and I select the screen to share. Let's see if I'll try one more time.
It says you're sharing, but then it never moves on to the content.
Yeah.
What is it on the right upper? Oh, no, that's Christie.
Okay, well, it usually works, but whatever. So I will skip.
Oh,
that.
there it is. There it is.
Oh, okay. So some of them are kind of obscure and I'll just walk through them. So this is walking from, actually, these are not in the baseball field area. I have separate photos of those, but I thought it'd be really interesting to see the ones Dorothy Ford Park. I don't know if you guys can recognize these wood rat nests, but it's kind of cool to sort of get a sense of what they look like. Okay. The next one I'll show. I guess it's just really slow. So in some cases I could see fresh material and that's the best indicator unless you actually have cameras. So there's another one. You can actually see the entrances on that one. There's another one. Yeah, so I'm going to try and go a little faster because it seems like there's a lag. I'm actually on the next one. Oh, okay. More entrances visible. Some of them are really big and really cool. There you can see some green stuff on that one, and that one has fresh material. There's another really big one. So these are all so far between Alpine Trail and the creek, which is not a very big distance. And you can pretty much see, actually here you can see across the creek even where the sun is hitting it. Here's another one. This one looks like it might be abandoned, although there's a little bit of green stuff. Well, yeah, this is the one. Some of them are less interesting than others. I'm going to go a little faster if I can.
Did you find a male one in a tree?
I did not see any in the trees. I mean, that's not unusual to see, but I did not see any. Sorry, I don't know why this is so slow. Okay, let's see. Okay, so there, I'll conclude with a few at the end here. One of the really interesting things that I hadn't anticipated, is this is looking from Alpine Trail to Alpine Road. So the grass that you see there is Dorothy Ford Park between the Alpine Trail and the road. So there are a couple here. So here's this next one is just really interesting. So here you can see, actually, again, looking from Alpine Trail through the woodland to Dwight Crowder Trail, and then the grassy area, and then that's Alpine Road. And really clear, these are good wood rat nests. And here's one that had two, one frame that had two. Again, you can see Dwight Crowder Trail a little bit in the back. Anyway, you know, there's really a lot of activity in that area. I'll stop sharing there. So I'm just trying to put together a list of what's there and what's important and where it is. You know, it's not that they're uncommon. This is a species of conservation concern, so it's a special status subspecies, really. And it's not that they're uncommon here, but they're just indicators of habitat health, really, that there's the stuff in the shelter and that they really need.
A few years ago, I actually went down into the creek when it was dry in summer and walked from the Dela Oaks Swim and Tennis Club out to the end of Ford Field, basically. And most of the nests I saw were all on the Alpine roadside, which is shielded from the late afternoon sun, and very few on the other side. But there were many that were active, many.
Okay.
And sometimes I make one more comment. Sometimes they sort of migrate up to my property. In the last few years, they come and go. I had one a female nest on the ground, which was very big for a number of years. And then the bottom of the driveway, I had a smaller one up in a tree in the Coast Live Oak.
Okay, shall we move on to Rosati Field? I don't know that there's anything new there. How about Town Center? Nothing new there? Excellent. Shady Trail?
Nothing new.
Nothing new.
There is.
Oh, there is?
Yeah. Oh, well, I can do this under the liaison to open space if you prefer. No.
Let's
So
do it now.
as everybody knows, there's a part of Shady Trail that is very eroded, sort of halfway into the trail, just as you get basically south or southwest of Shady Trail open space, but the trail, there, you know, barriers with caution tape and stuff like that so that nobody goes off the edge of the trail there. So open space, thanks to Bev Lippman and Betsy Morgenthaler, we started looking into whether or not open space should do something about this. There had been a rumor that FEMA might cover it, but that went nowhere.
Wow.
And so Betsy organized a meeting that had Justin Bixby, Scott Weber, our new town engineer Javad, and Bev, and Gary Hanning from Trails. We all went out there and looked. So they're going to come up with an estimate of what it would cost to repair that area. And then it'll go back to open space. But it's, you know, it's really interesting. It'll be great to see that trail get repaired because it's just going to get worse.
Right, right.
So you'll pay the bill.
We don't know what the bill is yet. And the way this works is, you know, I looked at a hillshade map to see where the trail is in relation to property lines. And it's interesting because the creek is not the property line. The trail is actually the property line between, you know, the uphill properties and the properties across the creek. So the town has an easement on multiple properties along the length of the trail. While we were there, Gary called the owner of the parcel that the slide is, you know, the erosion is actually on, and they're interested in partnering in some way. So we'll see how that goes.
Good. And since Nancy's not here, let's not talk about the volunteer work day yet. 'Cause since she had volunteered to do it. Okay, committee town cooperation. There's nothing that I'm aware of from Public Works no. Trails and Paths.
The meeting was canceled. It has been rescheduled for February 12th.
Wildfire preparedness.
The wildfire preparedness meeting, that was, I would say, 100% fire related and not really conservation or vegetation related. So I don't think, unless you want me to, I'm going to report on the fire stuff on the insurance. That's not appropriate.
Good. Okay.
Excuse me, Marianne, did you want to say anything about, did Kim talk about the home inspections, the yard inspections and stuff?
Yes, actually she did. And she mentioned what they're doing in Woodside, and there was actually an email from the town that reiterated what Kim was saying in that meeting. It came out a few days ago. It's under the headline, I call her Liza Martinelli, but I know that's not her name.
Elizabeth Martelli.
Elizabeth Martinelli. She just put out an email that refers exactly to that presentation. It's on it's on her. It's being done in Woodside. I asked the question if they see a lot of stuff on 0 to 5, and she was Kim was mentioning that 0 to 5 is actually quite clean. And they're not going to come into Portola Valley for quite a while. They're doing. But if you want to look at the details, I didn't prepare that because I saw the email from the town there, so I don't need to repeat that.
Okay, and open space? Anything?
This is a little bit tangential, but ever since Dorothy Ford Park was incorporated in the final housing element, the Open Space Committee has discussed informally and now formally, is there any way that the Open Space Fund can be used to solve two problems at once? That is the fact that Dorothy Ford Park might get developed and that we are sort of running out of opportunities to find new open space in town. And so the last meeting was really a sort of formal focused discussion of that question, which has gone everywhere from saying, could the Open Space Fund buy Dorothy Ford Park again and give it to the town with an easement to, which is not really a possibility probably, to whether or not the Open Space Fund could, in some sense, acquire another parcel that would be used for both open space purposes and for housing as an alternative to Dorothy Ford Park under the Sunrise provision. And the property that got the most discussion is a property along Skyline that is part of the Fogarty Winery, which the Fogarty family is thinking of transitioning their holdings. And so it might be available. Anyway, this is just a long shot at this point, but it's relevant in the sense that the committee is seriously looking at properties to acquire for open space. And ways to protect Dorothy Ford Park.
Yes, yes.
And is there anybody who's there is an ad hoc subcommittee of the town that's looking at alternative sites. Specifically, that's their whole job. And
Yeah.
I think that property was on their list, but are
Yeah,
those two
so
efforts
I'm on that,
dovetailing?
I'm on
Okay.
the ad hoc committee and I'm on the subcommittee that's looking at it. So that subcommittee is Mary Hefty, Ronnie Krasinski, who's on Planning Commission, and me.
So in conjunction with our housing element, in order to get it recertified, HCD is now requiring us to formally split the Ford open space parcel into parts. Because right now it's just it's one big property that includes the baseball field and the open space park. And the state is now going to require Portola Valley to actually split off the portion that we're planning to do for housing and to actually zone it for 20 to 23 units. So I've asked the question into the town about how that is going to interface with Proposition, I think 330, I think is the one. I looked at it and I haven't gone through it in depth, but there's something about the rules that say that if you zone a property for housing, you can't then reverse it and go back and then rezone it as open space. So I think that's something that we all kind of need to confirm and follow up on, because I would hate to then, get that property then zoned for housing and then we find an alternative, but yet then we're stuck creating that. So it's just something to be aware of. But we can't seem to get a certified housing element without moving forward with that. So we're at risk of builder's remedies.
Right. So again, this is slightly tangential, but one of the topics that we talked about here in the past was that the parcel boundary for Dorothy Ford Park is not where the creek is, and the creek undercuts the area that was designated. So there isn't, if you use the creek as the boundary and the top of bank as the baseline for the setback, there isn't really as much room as the feasibility analysis suggested. So I've been working with the planning director, Terrence Grindall, to try and find ways that you could actually come up with enough area to do what we need to do to get a certified housing element, because I think we all agree that the worst outcome would be a builder's remedy. And there aren't many ways to draw those lines, but there may be an option. And they are getting it surveyed, actually.
And was the part that's the ball field actually off the table? I thought that. I
It
thought
never
that-
was in.
Okay, even though it's the one property,
So
it's clear that it was not, huh?
there's a really confusing aspect to this, which is that it was 2.48 acres that was put in the housing element. And if you draw a parcel that starts at the easternmost parcel boundary, which is with Santa Clara County technically, and you go to Alpine Road, You go north to the 30-foot driveway easement to the bridge to nowhere, and you go south to the baseball field. That's 2.48 acres. But there was a misunderstanding, and some people thought that the 2.48 was the buildable area of Dorothy Ford Park plus the baseball field, which also comes out to about 2.5 acres. So there was
It's
there
not
was a
clear.
fair amount of confusion, I think, on that.
Yeah, I'll be brief because I guess we're sort of running late. Um, Teresa already mentioned it regarding the 10 Redberry parcel that the homeowner said, well, all the neighbors have Trichia, so why should I take it out? I spoke with the fire marshal about that. And the fire marshal is now working with us, and she is adding to, what's the document called? The living document next to the ordinance? The guidelines. So she will add to the guidelines the Trichia and the broom. And then the fire department will enforce it. And we just have one open action item. We got a number of questions back from Kim regarding our Trichia document, and we should do this by this week, and she's really on to it. And then we don't have the issue that somebody says, well, my neighbor has it, why should I? And this will also help with the ASCC and with the town to put it into their enforcement. If the fire department does it, then there's no reason the town shouldn't as well.
Excuse me, is somebody talking?
I said we're gonna move on to the wildlife corridors and fencing guidelines.
Okay.
My mic was not on, sorry. Wildlife corridors and fencing guidelines.
Okay.
Mary Ann and.
So before we go into the document and the voting, I just want to quickly reiterate why we're doing this, because we have been doing this for quite a while. In August 2024, the AB 1889 Room to Roam bill was written into law. And that will have significant, well, all the municipalities, including our town, will have to do a lot of work to follow the guidelines or follow the law. And so we took it upon ourselves to take the low-hanging fruit, because that was the fast issue, to add things to the fence permit that will help preserve existing wildlife corridors in town. And when we're done with this, we will go into the much harder work with what the bill says. So that's the background. And then you all saw the document. And let's start with the letter, because the letter is so short. So we were going to send the fence permit, the fence changes, with a cover letter to the town. And does anybody have any changes to the proposed cover letter?
Is the cover letter at the end?
Yes, it's at the very end. It's very
Last
short.
page.
No change?
No, I just said it's the last page.
Oh, last page.
So this is just the body of the letter to the council.
To the council. No changes? Can I then make a motion to approve the letter as written?
So moved.
All in favor? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we're done with the letter. And now let's quickly go through the ordinance. And I know there is a letter from MJ, and I will address that at the end. I haven't forgotten. Unless you have a color, so I will just go through with it. On the first page under fence location, the third bullet point in the less than 1 acre districts is the addition that says domestic fences along wildlife corridors to be set back from the rear or side property line by the width of the required yard. That's the change. Actually, I'm not going to read them.
So on every single one of these, that actual statement doesn't mean anything to me. I had absolutely no idea what you were actually saying, Marianne. So is there some way that you can explain what the width of the required yard, setback from the rear or side by the width of the required yard? That tells me that it has to be
It's in the
set-
document. Why don't, Megan?
This is my time to shine.
This is her time
I
to shine.
spent
That's fine. I
you-
just.
We understand how you feel.
completely reasonable to be lost with that statement. Unfortunately, we're mirroring the language that's already used within the regulations and the ordinance.
Yeah.
But what does it mean?
It is
So-
what it is.
I will get there. So, if you follow a number of complicated sections through the ordinance, it defines a required yard. Essentially, I'm going to summarize here and probably skip a couple of details. It's the setback, the required setback of a side yard. I don't know why we can't say it directly, but they don't anywhere. So we use this existing language.
Actually, you have it in the document. It's at 1804555. It
Fine.
says yard required. It's a setback. It's just, it's
But
an,
I don't know what that means, Marianne. I mean, I know what a
It's a
setback is.
setback.
I know, is it 20 feet? Is it 100 feet? Is it?
That gets more
6,000?
complicated and you have to look it up in
Okay.
a table in the ordinance.
Teresa, to make you feel any better, the subcommittee, when we started working on this, we all looked at that and we thought, what the hell does that mean? And we tried to explain it to one another and nobody knew, and we had to go look it up ourselves, but it didn't make sense to us. It's not explainable in short language, and it didn't make sense to us to use anything other than the official language that they use in the ordinance. So I totally agree with you. You read it and you think, what the hell? But it's kind of the way it has to be.
we're sticking with the wording, what the horse people did, we're just sticking with the wording and we're sticking with the ordinance numbers. That's all we're doing. And it's a setback.
I understand it's a setback. I figured, I knew that from the very beginning. It's
Okay.
Just what I mean is, we're saying, okay, we're asking that this be incorporated. And I'm assuming that most people in town are pretty intelligent and they're going to read this and say, I don't know how much of a setback.
Do
is
they
it?"
understand the rest of the ordinance? I mean,
No matter how we write it, Teresa, you have to chase the language through the ordinance to find your own required yard. There's no way for us to
it's there.
summarize it into a. into a simple-
180455, required yard.
It's
And-
different on all the properties, everything.
It's
on
different, it could be.
A whole bunch of
It's
categories.
just, it is what it is. We cannot change it. It's an ordinance of the town of Portola Valley. And for our purpose here, we don't really need to know, is it 5 feet or 10 feet? It is what it is. And at every parcel, the town enforces it. We don't really need to know that.
Okay.
Okay. And then there is a new bullet point at the very bottom of we're still in the fence location. Only wildlife fences permitted within or across existing wildlife corridors. Okay. And then we have moved it into the next one. At the 1 acre districts, it's a bullet 2. And then at the bottom, it's the last bullet again. And then at the 2+, it's the bullet number 2 with horse fences. And then the very last one at the bottom, only wildlife. So we have just moved it and we're consistent. Any more questions on that? Okay. Moving rapidly along at the height, in the height section at the that's the bullet point 4 is new. Wildlife friendly fences are maximum 40-inch high. And we discussed that last time. That's all that is on page 1. And then we have, hang on, where am I? I got confused when I was looking for your stuff. Under the page 3, thank you. 1804-315 is the definition for a wildlife ready fence. And then 1804-320 is the definition for the wildlife corridor. improved the wildlife corridor definition. We think it's pretty good now. Any questions for that?
I have a question on page 3 at the top, under the whereas. Whereas the town council of the town of Portola Valley wishes to revise its zoning ordinance to include new provision, question mark, for fences. What's the question mark there? Is it just a typo or is it,
I don't, oh, that must be a typo.
okay.
Thank you. That has nothing to do with us. That's not something we put in. Whereas, the whereas sentence is something that's there. Yeah, has nothing to do with it. That's fences, not wildlife corridors. It's just a typo in the ordinance. Okay, and then on page 4, 180455, no, we didn't change that. That was the explanation for Teresa. And then on page 5, under 1843-020, number 6. So we added, in all districts, only wildlife-friendly fences are allowed within or across wildlife corridors. Domestic and horse fences along wildlife corridors to be set back from the rear or side property line by width of the required yard. It's the same thing. Any questions regarding the definitions? Okay. And
Actually, can I just jump in for one
yes,
second?
please do. Please do.
So what happened, that question mark is just an S and it was smudged out. And so when it was converted from a PDF to Word, it went from an S to a question
Oh,
mark.
thank you. Now you know who did the converting. Thank you, Nona. And page 6, number 4, fences within or across existing wildlife corridors shall not exceed 40 inches in height, and the fence shall have a minimum clear space from ground level of 16 inches. That hasn't changed from the last meeting. And then the last thing, I think, is on page 7, 1843-061, wildlife-friendly fences. So a wildlife-friendly fence shall conform to the following standards. The top wire or rail shall be no higher than 40 inches, have a minimum of 16-inch clearance from the ground. And I want to thank particularly Megan, because doing this wording is really difficult. At the end, it is so simple, but it is difficult. And Megan did a lot of that work. Okay, and those are all the changes. And I quickly need to address, we got a memo from MJ regarding the fencing, and she is addressing wildfire safety and 0 to 5 zone. And that is not, I'm not sure why this came to the Conservation Committee, because that sounds to me something that's either the Wildfire Committee or the Emergency Preparedness Committee. We are only looking at wildlife corridors. We're not looking at wildfire safety. So but I wanted to address it so she knows we looked at it.
Is there something that should have come to all of us? Did it come to the
She did. She
committee,
says,
or-
this is my public comment on the fencing ordinance drafting to be discussed at the Conservation Committee, January 28th meeting. I didn't look who else got that. I assume it's a public document. But it only, it's some very good points about wildfire safety.
So we did not, the committee did not receive that, Marianne, so we're not sure exactly what it is. It didn't come to us.
No, I'm saying she's saying this is her public comment. So I assume she put it out somewhere.
Okay.
How'd you get a copy?
I don't
of
know.
it?
I got an email. I don't know.
From
From MJ Lee.
directly.
I didn't look.
I can explain it if you want.
Oh, yes, MJ, please.
So I couldn't remember how to submit public comment to a committee. So I sent the email to the committee's email address. What is that? conservation@portolavalley.net, something like that.
Well, if I got that, all you must have gotten.
No. So I sent it to whatever your email address is on the town website for your
Those usually go
committee.
to me, but I didn't get that.
Yeah, but I sent it to that address and to Mary Ann, and I should have sent it to Nona as well, since Nona was on the WPC, but that's how you
Okay,
guys
but-
get it, got it.
Thank you for clarifying, MJ. But this is a fire thing and it just has absolutely nothing to do with our wildlife corridor fence changing. That's just the point I wanted to make.
Well, no, my point was that, people the public doesn't deal with new ordinances very often. And I just thought that while you're telling people this is what you have to do when you're building a fence, it would be nice if it mentions that when you're building a fence for wildfire safety purposes, you should not have it within 5 feet of a structure. If it is wood.
MJ, I understand what you're saying, but we, as the Conservation Committee, cannot draft ordinance changes that have to do with fire or wildfire. This is something your committee can do. This is something the Wildfire Committee can do. It just has absolutely nothing to do with our wildlife corridors.
Well, you're defining for the public what a fence should be like. I mean, you're
No,
specifying height
No,
and
MJ.
density and reflectivity. It just seemed to me, why not throw in and don't build it within 5 feet of a structure? That's all I was trying to say. I mean,
Yeah,
if you
I
feel
think,
it's not your
MJ,
purview.
This is Judy. I think most of these wildlife corridors are out. They're not housing adjacent. They're usually out of the edges of the property or through the larger properties. So we're talking about fencing that's not up against the house or near the house. So I take your point entirely, but I think it's not in the area where what we're talking about is going to be.
I think we should also
okay.
clarify for everyone that this is an existing ordinance. We aren't defining anything about reflectivity or domestic fences. We're just inserting selected bullet points about wildlife friendly fencing only in wildlife corridors.
Okay, I understand your position. Thank you.
And also,
Thank
we're
you, MJ.
this is the first step that it has to go to ASCC and then probably to planning and then to the council. And all we've done is try to get the move started so the corridors will get protected.
Yeah, I just know, we're trying to put through an ordinance change on decking and the whole thing is taking us like 2 years. So I just thought if we had a chance to throw in a couple words and save a 2-year effort down the road, it might be valuable. But
But maybe this would be a time to take our Word version and add your changes too. And then wildfire preparedness could submit some changes at the same time. I mean, they don't have to be the same time.
No. If we combine committees.
I'm not saying combine, I'm just saying give them our document and they could submit the initial translation, not.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. MJ, what we can do is we have taken the ordinance and put it into a Word document. And because obviously it's much easier to work from that. So we can give that to you and then you can take it to your committee and then you can work on changes.
That makes sense to me.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's
Additional
a good-
changes, yeah. And then if we submit it.
We are submitting ours.
Ours is
because
gonna go in
it's-
now, but-
It's
Right.
very focused to wildlife
Yes.
corridors.
So do we actually define a wildlife corridor anywhere?
Yes.
Yes, it's in there.
18.
In the most roundabout way
04,
possible.
320. I was just reading that.
No, but
it's too.
so again, I understand. I've read it, I see what's written, and to me, it's not a definition. And so I think what I'm struggling with is we're saying we want this ordinance to be updated to include information on wildlife corridors, but we're not giving any tools to identify where they exist. So that, and I appreciate that maybe that's completely outside of this, but that's where I am getting hung up.
What do you mean where they exist? What do you mean?
I mean that many people don't even recognize that there are wildlife corridors across their properties. So when they put up a fence, they're not trying to block it. They just don't even see it. So, and I don't really, we are so far over on time right now. I don't want to get into this discussion here. It's not, I'm just saying that I'm having difficulty with this because it's not a tool for me. And that's what I was hoping for. And I appreciate the language. I appreciate how it evolved, but I'm I'm looking for something I can use to help teach. And the language that's in our existing ordinance doesn't help a lot. And
But-
that's kind of where I am. So can we just move on? That's fine.
I-
I'm sorry, I'm going to just drop it.
I just want to say
fine.
one quick thing about that. I understand where you're coming from, but we might take a page out of the book that we did with the fire department's ordinance and make our own guideline of how to interpret it, because often these ordinances are written in ways that are, lawyers have to fight over, right?
Okay, fair enough. Let's
so
move on.
we'll
I mean, honestly,
Do a guidelines
Fine,
that
we
can
can-
interpret.
This is a great idea, and that would be then a living document.
Right.
And yeah, that's perfect. Okay. All right.
And Teresa,
It will go. I think it will first go to ASCC, and then ASCC will look at it. Okay, then we'll send it to planning. Okay,
The,
actually, that's very helpful. So then we will not send it to ASCC, we will send it first to planning. That's great.
now I have one final question on that, the enforcement, and you brought it up. Because walking through towns and recognizing site surveys we did, and now you walk there 2 years later, they're still in construction, but all of a sudden there are huge fences. So
Yeah.
is ASCC or the planning actually enforcing that when they give the final permits?
We have a suggestion for that. Our idea, and I brought this up in the last town council meeting. We would like to offer our services when somebody puts a fence permit in the same way as we treat the tree permits. We're prepared, we'll go out, we look at it, because we have a real vested interest that the wildlife corridors are staying intact.
It's right, but it's when whoever issues the final permit, that's also for a different meeting. Is anybody in town actually checking what was submitted versus what was built? It's a question we should ask them.
We would have a report, like we have now a report for the tree permit that would go to the town, that would go into the package, and that would be then in the package
I
for
don't,
that
I don't
property.
think that's what
Asking-
Yogi's saying. I think he's saying that various restrictions have been put on the project in order to get its permit. And now the thing's been built and it gets approved and not everything has been done the way the plan said. And there is spotty enforcement of things like that. And I would guess that the current excuse is they're short-staffed, et cetera.
Yeah.
But they've never been great on enforcement of the details that are important to us, but
Yeah.
not the building inspector thinks about the building.
Yeah.
And pays very little, if any, attention to the landscaping.
For a
and
different
that's
meeting,
a
but I
problem.
think we
It's
should-
a good point. We should bring that up. And also the other thing is some homeowners will be welcome and they will adhere by the rules and others will not. And this is a factor of life. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we need to move on.
All right.
So, but we need to vote.
We need
So
to
I-
vote.
I would like to move that we accept these changes as written in red.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All in favor? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, Teresa abstaining.
Okay. We have a public comment, phone number ending in 7562. Can you please make your comment?
Good evening, Caroline Bertongan. I have a quick question. Since you all know Woodside Priory has proposed a new amended CUP and it's adding that sports complex. So did you ever get a permit for the fencing at Coleman Fields, which is the back field? It used to be a soccer field that we shared with baseball.
It's not a conservation
And-
issue. This is not a conservation issue.
Who is the issue? Because that's a fence. And it was put in, the town paid for it on 11/18/21, and I raised the question. It was quoted that it was a fence repair for Russ Miller Fields, which is at Town Center, and it was not. So who do we address this with?
Uh, I have no idea, but it's not a conservation committee issue.
We're proposing that we might review fence permits in the future, but we do not currently review any fence permits.
That is correct.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. David?
Oh, hi, and I sort of apologize. I've been bouncing back and forth between your meeting and the Parks and Rec meeting, which were unfortunately at the same time. But first, I'm enthusiastic about the changes to the fence ordinance. And I think I've written to you before, I would be even more aggressive if I could. Second, as far as enforcement, I don't think it has anything to do with staffing or whatever. We've just never had a policy of doing anything about anything once the permit was issued. That goes for lighting, it goes for almost anything. So I wish we had more enforcement and I'm all for it, but it's not unique to the situation. We just aren't really we aren't really doing as a town, and we don't even have fines for a lot of stuff. So we're very laid back, which worked for a long time. But if we want to enforce these things, we as a people have to make the town council step it up and say, we want enforcement. So that's my only thought. Thanks.
Good comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, have we done everything we need to do on this?
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to Hawthorns. And I was not aware that there was anything because I'm the liaison to the trails part, and they haven't had any meetings recently. So maybe. So I don't think there are any updates on Hawthorns. Let's move to the routine town communications. Christy, do you have a comment?
Yes, I do. There was a meeting and the lower barn is 4,500 square feet. And there was a feasibility study and to expedite this approval by the board. What concerns me, and this has to do with putting parking around the lower barn, maybe 10 to 15 parking places, although the map would not show that. It is a meadow, and there were quite 3 comments. I think the man who owns the hardware store was concerned that it was not going to be restored in a historical way, that it would get air conditioning and be restored to be 365 days. And
So Christy, the building stuff doesn't pertain to us at all.
well, it's actually natural habitat around this area. So basically, they've approved it to start. Well, the public will be able to use it occasionally, but I don't know about you, but I use Rancho San Antonio barn all throughout my life with my kids for shade and to go in and have a picnic and ride the bike there. I kind of picture this barn in the same way. And I think public usage of the barn at a limited and occasional usage is of concern to the Conservation Committee, because they're going to do art classes and, you know, things with nature in there. And I want the public to be able to enjoy it as well. So that's.
So I still fail to see how this is anything that is, it's not in front of the Conservation Committee. We haven't been asked about the building, and this is really distracting.
I know I'm just reporting on Hawthorne's progress in Portola Valley in a nature preserve, and conservation is animals and nature, right? That's all.
That's fine, but we have specific.
I think
Specific topics that we need
I
to-
think we're taking that she's asking us for something, and I think she's just reporting. So thank you for your report. We appreciate.
Yes, I agree. Okay, let's move on to town communications. Do we have any kudos this month?
No.
Okay, and backyard habitat also, nothing?
Nope.
Okay, tip of the month. So I did Oak last month. I'm seeing oxalis popping up all over the place, so I'm kind of inclined to do oxalis. Okay,
Yes, please.
okay. And then what's blooming now? I did Garrya last month, and I'm thinking maybe Arrives or Ceanothus.
Or both?
Manzanita. I'll do Manzanita, okay.
We need to take a picture. We need to take a picture.
I'm
of
not
it.
advocating that you do Manzanita. It's just that at the last site permit review that we did, there was a big discussion of Manzanitas, and Nancy wasn't familiar with Dr. Hurd. And so I just thought if anybody doesn't know some of the Manzanitas that are growing locally, those are from my yard.
Actually, talking Manzanitas, I would like to share something very positive with you. I saw this on the trail on Mapache, and I assume it was the fire department. I never realized there's a beautiful multi-stemmed Manzanita, and it must have been covered with I don't know what. And it was cleared out, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I will send you a photo. I took a photo. I was so happy. I need to congratulate Dan Dempsey or whoever did that. I'll send you the photo.
Okay, so I'll do something on Manzanita.
If this display here is supposed to educate the public, I can add some named and some that just the bird part, but particularly more into the intensely pink or red. And I could bring these tomorrow if somebody was interested in it.
Catherine, I wonder if we should just add something that Manzanita shouldn't be too close to the house for the fire
Absolutely.
department.
Yeah,
And always well pruned, take the dead parts out.
yeah.
So I have a question. Is this here for us tonight because we're conservation and it's our thing?
We're not brought
Or
in.
were you gonna leave it for the council to enjoy? What was?
Actually, Judy, it was your idea that we should bring in things that are flowering, so
love it.
everyone is familiar with them, and I just thought it was a great idea.
I love it.
I'll take a picture.
I thought Oxalis flowering.
Okay, well, I think we can end this meeting.
Meeting adjourned.
Oh, Nancy's got a question. Nancy.
She on mute?
Nancy, you're muted.
Unmute. Yes. So somebody just said that they would take a photo of that manzanita, and that's all I wanted to ask for. And I have been listening to all of you through the whole meeting, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person.
Well, thank you for sticking with us.
Yes. Now I'm going to lower my hand. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, well,
Bye.
that's it. So thank you guys. And their next meeting is February 25th. And I'm giving the agenda making powers over to Mary Ann. And the key.
Thank you. I am very much looking forward to it.
Good. All right.
I will do one thing because I learned that from Judy. Yeah, I learned that from Judy. I will put out a little action item